shows 16 waiting.
Is it good now? Is it up now?
I'm looking. I'm waiting.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a little bit behind you. Just ask if everybody can hear you.
Hey guys, I just want to check in, make sure anybody can hear me. Everything good on your end? All right, here we go. All right. Sorry, we had a little technical difficulty. I'm over here talking away and apparently talking to myself tonight. So, hey, once again, glad to have everyone here on board with our YouTube Live on Tuesday with Robbie. For those of you that haven't been here before, I'm Robbie. It's good to have you. A couple of things before we really get started. If you missed the Sensible Prepper show earlier today, we had a really, really good show. I highly recommend you checking that out if you get a moment. And then if you had questions from the Sensible Prepper show that you didn't get answered and you're over here tonight and would like to have those answered, just pop them in the comments section and we'll get to those as we work through the video tonight. A couple of things. One, we're looking at doing a YouTube Live next Tuesday from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock-ish. If that's something that you guys are interested in, and girls, pop it in the comments that yes, you'd like to have a live next Tuesday, or no, you're going to be busy doing family stuff and won't be able to stop by. And we'll look at the comments toward the end and make a decision whether we're going to do a live next Tuesday or if we're going to forego that and pick up right after the new year. Next, talking about the new year, we're looking at doing a new Patreon live series starting in January for all of our Patreon members. And that would immediately follow our YouTube Live on Tuesday nights. And then we can discuss some different topics that maybe we can't discuss on YouTube because of their policies and things that YouTube allows or doesn't allow, that we can discuss on the Patreon channel. As well as that being a little more intimate, informal setting where I can really get to a lot of people's questions and really kind of deep dive some things that a lot of times I don't have the opportunity to do on YouTube. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, please let me know in the comments as well, and we'll look at that, look at doing a new a Patreon live starting in January. First thing tonight, guys, we've got our Christmas holiday coming up, and let's not forget the reason for the season. The reason is the birth of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, not shopping and stress and feeling overwhelmed. If that's where you're at, refocus what's important in your life and make sure that you put Jesus Christ first. Let's see, what else have I got? I think as far as notes, that's about it, guys. Let's jump into some fun stuff. Talk about guns and prepping and life and everything. We've got a bunch of people on here tonight. It's good to see a lot of our regulars. Let's scroll back up here to the top and jump into some questions. Devil Dog Prepper, hello and greetings from Ohio. How's the weather up there in Ohio today? It's a little cold here in South Carolina. It's a little cooler than what we're used to. Gerald Montanona says, my question, I already own a Glock 19 Gen 5.
Okay, go down a little bit.
And here we go. Okay.
There you go.
What do you recommend for 9mm conversion barrel for the 23? We're not making those right now. The one that I really recommend for guys is the KKM barrels. The guys over at KKM do a real good job with their conversion barrels, and that's been a barrel that I've used for years when we're not making them ourselves. So check out KKM. They make really good barrels. All right, audio. Everybody says the audio is good. Thumbs up. Awesome. Andrew, I'm not even going to attempt to butcher your last name. So Andrew, thank you for stopping by from Colorado tonight. Devil Dog Prepper, Semper Fi brother. Got a few yes on the lives next Tuesday. All right, that looks good. Chris Matthews, great show today with Sensible Prepper. It's my birthday next Tuesday. Is fine with me. Awesome. Chris, thanks for checking out the Thanks for watching us earlier today, and happy birthday to you next Tuesday. Or happy birthday today, I'm sorry. So, for those of you that don't know, this past Friday was my birthday. I turned another year younger. I've actually started counting backwards now instead of forward, and we'll see how close back to zero I can get before I start pushing up daisies. Jim Griner says, "Hey Dave, we meet again." Steve from Tennessee is in tonight. Good to have all of you guys here. Let's talk about something that I really enjoy, and that's AR-15s. AR-15s are a great rifle platform with some limitations. You know, it was originally designed around the 5.56 cartridge, 5.56 headspace, and it works really well in that caliber, as well as some other calibers that are based kind of loosely around the 5.56 rim diameter. One of the issues that I've seen over the years with the AR-15 platform is when it's used for purposes that it's not really designed or intended to, like the 6.5 Grendel is one that really comes to mind. The Grendel and the 7.62 by 39 both have a really large rim diameter compared to the 5.56 rim diameter. And what most companies do, they just open up the bolt face on a 5.56 bolt or machine a bolt with a larger bolt face. Either way works. But what you run into is you get a bolt face that's really thin around the recoil lugs, and what can end up happening, and what I've seen happen a lot over the years in 7.62 by 39 as well as the 6.5 Grendel, is the bolt lugs will break off. I had a customer a few years ago put together a brand new rifle, really nice long range rifle in 6.5 Grendel, and he goes out to the range, he's shooting it, and he gets about 60 or 80 rounds through the rifle. One of the recoil lugs broke off of the bolt, and the lug went down the barrel, and he sent another round behind it and absolutely destroyed the barrel with that steel recoil lug tumbling and gouging down the bore of his brand new rifle. And so he calls the company that built the bolt, and they stood behind it and made it right. But you know, it's one of those things that you don't want to have to go through that. And you know, there's calibers that work really well on the AR-15 platform. There's calibers that I tend to stay away from just because of issues that I've seen over the years. And the 6.5 Grendel and the 7.62 by 39 are two that I generally shy away from in the AR-15 platform because of the small diameter bolt face, just to prevent things like that from happening. Let's see, Chris Matthews says, Robbie, with normal use, would you ever have to change a gas block on an AR fixed A2 front post? You know, my recommendation with that would be when you swap the barrel, you swap the gas block. So whatever, you know, whether you're 15,000, 20,000, 25,000 rounds, depending on how hot you're running the rifle and how hard you're running it. When you do a barrel change, normally I do a gas block change at the same time, especially with the A2 front sight post, because the A2 front sight post is drilled and pinned specific to that barrel. They're machined as one operation, or drilled as one operation. So it's not like you can take that A2 front sight post off of one rifle and move it over to another rifle and re-drill it and get the pins to line up exactly like they're supposed to. There's always going to be some slop and some wiggle in your front sight post. So when you do a barrel swap, go ahead and change out the A2 front sight post. Me personally, when I do a barrel swap, I always change out my gas block, whether it's a little micro fixed gas block or whatever, but it's just common that I always swap those parts out. Those parts can wear, especially if you're running a lightweight gas block made out of aluminum or titanium. With all of the gas and pressure that's coming back up through that, you can get some wear on that gas block and gas port hole and oversize it over time. So it's cheap insurance, really. You know, when you rebarrel a rifle, spend another $20, $25 and put another gas block on it. Now, I'm not a big fan of adjustable gas blocks. I see issues with those, and I've seen issues with those over the years. One of the big things I see with the adjustable gas blocks are if it's not bleeding off consistent gas every shot, it can cause a point of impact shift. If you've just got a screw that's ran in there that you're blocking off the gas with, and that screw loosens and backs out, or the amount of gas pressure changes, it can dramatically impact your point of impact. So I'll try and say that 3 times fast. So that's one of the things that I always, on my competition rifles and my defensive rifles, all of my ARs, I run a fixed gas block that's set to wide open gas. I would rather play with the port size on the barrel and either plug it or get a barrel blank and drill the gas port size myself and tune the gas port on the barrel to the gun versus trying to tune a gas block that can cause inconsistent gas pressure and accuracy issues. Same thing with your gas tube. If your gas tube starts to wear, it's normally going to wear at 12 o'clock on the top of the little flared end that goes into your bolt carrier group. When that flare starts to wear, if you flip your rifle over and you look up through the mag well, or you take your upper off and pull the bolt carrier group out and look at your gas tube, you're not going to be able to see really any kind of wear on it. It's going to look, the little flare at the end is going to look normal, just like it's supposed to, and you start getting reliability issues. The rifle short strokes, it double feeds, it won't lock back on the last round. The first thing I do is pull the gas block out, pull the gas tube out, and look at the top of the gas tube at 12 o'clock. If that gas tube is wearing, it's going to be smooth on the top, and that's going to allow a gas seal or a gas leak around that seal, and then it's time for a new gas tube. I am not a big fan of piston assemblies in ARs. They've been around for 20-ish years or so. Commercially, some a little more, some a little less. But, you know, they really got to be mainstream around 20 years ago. And a lot of people are big fans of them. A lot of guys that run suppressed are big fans of them. It's something that I've never really been a big fan of for a few reasons. One, the gas tube injects a little bit of gas down the tube into the bolt carrier group to cycle the rifle. Where the piston, you don't have any gas coming back into your receiver where the tube would normally be, but when you're shooting suppressed, you do still have a lot of gas that comes back down the barrel itself into your chamber and into your receiver. I really haven't seen a whole lot of difference as far as cleanliness or dirtiness, depending on which way you're looking at it, with a gas piston versus gas impingement or a gas tube. So, me personally, I stick with the gas tubes for a few reasons. One, if I wear out a gas tube, I can go to any gun shop around here. I can get online and order spares, and you know, normally I keep spares on hand just because it's a consumable part. If the gas tube wears out, it's very easy for me to replace it, and you know, they're cheap. Gas tubes are, you know, $10, $15, $20 a piece. So you keep a few on hand, you wear one out, you put a new one in. If your piston gun goes down, if you break a piston, you break an op rod, you're kind of SOL. You know, unless the company will sell you replacement parts and you have replacement parts on hand, if that piston or op rod breaks, you're having to send that gun or the upper back to the manufacturer to be repaired. And me personally, I'm a big fan of being able to repair my stuff, being able to maintain and take care of my stuff. And in a SHTF situation, or you know, a huge economic downturn, we see problems with supply chain. We're not able to get parts. I have the spare parts on hand to be able to keep my rifles up and going and keep everything running like it's supposed to. So, what are your guys' thoughts? Pros or cons? Do y'all like the piston assembly on AR-15s? Do you prefer gas tube, you know, regular gas impingement systems? Let me get some thoughts from you guys on what y'all like.
You to talk about whenever you're replacing the bolt in the AR, shouldn't you replace the carrier group also? Is that important?
Yeah. So
say whatever the question is.
Yeah. So Beth was asking me, when you replace your bolt in your bolt carrier group, is it a good idea to replace the bolt and the bolt carrier? And yeah, that's something that we've actually seen a few pretty recently with a couple of rifles that we've worked on. We've had customers that have ordered specialty barrels for their ARs with a matched bolt to go with that setup. And when they come in, the bolts have a different type of gas ring on it than your standard 3-ring system. It's more of a single wound spiral gas ring, 1-piece gas ring, instead of the 3-piece gas rings like your normal bolts use. And what we've seen with those are, especially with, say, like a mil-spec chrome-lined bolt carrier group, the chrome-lined bolt carrier group is made larger, so when they chrome-line it, the chrome lining adds tolerance. So you go from a 680 thousandths down to 670 thousandths. So you get 5 thousandths per side build up with your chrome plating. Well, as that chrome plating wears away, the inside of your bolt carrier group gets larger, and with a gas ring, a single gas ring, you can lose your seal. So, and we've seen that recently, where a worn bolt carrier would not work with a brand new bolt, and the customer is going to end up having to get a new bolt to work with that new carrier. Now, if you're using a black nitrided bolt carrier group versus a chromed bolt carrier group, it's not going to be as big an issue because the tolerances are smaller inside the black nitrided bolt carrier group than they are with a chrome lined bolt carrier group. The black nitriding doesn't add thickness, so when you machine the part, you machine the part to a smaller tolerance, and those seem to work really well with the spiral single piece gas rings. Now, if you took that spiral gas ring off and replaced it with the 3 individual gas rings, it would probably work fine. But the spiral gas rings they can be temperamental. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of them. There's a lot of people out there that use them that really like them. But when you go to start swapping parts around, like a lot of us do, we're gonna buy a bolt, we're gonna use our carrier, and we start mixing and matching parts from different suppliers. You run into tolerance stacking issues a lot of times, and this is not just with rifles. This is with your ARs, with your Glocks, a lot of our what I call Lincoln log firearms that any adult can sit at home and build. When you start mixing and matching tolerances and parts, then you start running into issues with things not working like they're supposed to. So me personally, what I recommend is, if you buy a bolt from a specific manufacturer, get the carrier from that specific manufacturer as well. That way you know that those two parts are machined and made to go together and fit and work properly together. So otherwise you can run into some pretty significant reliability issues by just replacing a bolt and not replacing the bolt and the carrier from that supplier. Look at a couple of our questions over here. David Kraft, gas tube versus piston. I subscribe to KISS. Absolutely. Me as well. The keep it simple method. The gas tube it's just that. It's a little small steel tube. It's one part. And if it wears out, you take it out and replace it. Most of your gas piston assemblies, you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 moving parts. The more moving parts you have, the more potential you have for parts failure. And David, I agree with you 100%. I much prefer to stay with the KISS method with mine as well. Devil Dog Prepper says, Robbie, what are your thoughts, if any, on the Charles Daly Honcho? Which one? Let me look that up right quick. I think that's the little shotgun. It is. Yep. So I've actually got quite a bit of experience with the little Honcho, and I've had great experience with it. The ones that I've shot have ran really well. They've been very reliable. The machining and tolerances and everything on it are really good. The only downside, and it may or may not be a downside, but for me it is. The only downside is with those import shotguns, a lot of times they're brought in for a few years, they're sold in this country, and then they're discontinued. Once those guns are discontinued, it gets really difficult finding replacement parts. And I've seen this with Charles Daly a lot over the last 20 plus years. They'll sell a gun, somebody buys it, the gun runs really well. And one of the big issues that I've seen was with one of the semi-automatic shotguns that they had. The locking lug on the bolt would shear off and break right at the pin area. And there's no bolts available. There's no locking lugs available for those shotguns. So, the guy's got a shotgun that he dove hunts with a couple of times a year, and now it's got a broken locking lug in it, and he's got a pretty wall hanger, but a shotgun that's not usable. So I don't recommend buying import firearms unless you can get replacement parts for those firearms and be able to stock those parts up. I would, if it was me, I would look at one of the Remingtons or one of the Mossbergs in the same configuration and go with that over the Charles Daly, just because you know that you're going to be able to get replacement parts for those guns long term. Gerald Montanona, in the Army and all the special forces guys I worked with in Iraq and Afghanistan had piston HK-416s. They love them. The HK-416 is a outstanding weapons platform. The only downside is if that HK-416 goes down, it takes an HK-416 certified armorer to repair that firearm. I've got a friend of mine up in North Carolina that he's been an HK armorer for years, and for the last 20-ish years he owns a little gun shop, sells guns, makes guns, 07 manufacturer. But the last 20 years, he spent the majority of his time overseas in Iraq, Afghanistan, and a bunch of other hot zones, rebuilding and repairing the HK-416s and other HK weapons platforms that are in the military, because your normal armorers don't have the tools, the equipment, or the knowledge or the parts to be able to go in and disassemble and repair those firearms. So for that reason, once again, I stick with the KISS method. And hey, not knocking the HK-416 at all. It is a great weapons platform. But if it breaks, it's broken. It's not like a regular AR-15, like one of these behind the reliability bin. Off-road Victory, I've had really, really good results with the Springfield Prodigies. There's a few things with the platform that I'm not a fan of, but it's a cost to quality at that point. I prefer bar stock or tool steel hammers, sears, disconnectors, and things like that. The Prodigy comes with MIM'd or metal injection molded parts. They do that to keep the cost down on those firearms. It's an easy, cheap, I won't say super cheap, but it's an easy part to swap out. Putting a different hammer, sear, and disconnector in those guns, especially with some of the kits that are out there, like from EGW and a few other companies, it's easy to swap out the fire control group. I have seen some issues with the extractors in the Prodigies breaking, or not having the correct extractor tension and having extraction issues. I've seen issues with the ejectors breaking, especially if the slide locks to the rear and you do a slide lock reload and bang the magazine in really hard, you can snap the extractor off, snap the ejector off. So those are some issues that I've seen with them. And then obviously, I'm sure most of you that are familiar with the Prodigies know about the magazine issues that a lot of people have had. I've done a video on that. You can go back and check that video out on a really easy fix on that. One thing with the video that we did a few months ago on the Prodigy mags, we were using a spacer with the Prodigy mags to shift the rounds forward and using a short follower. We've got a new kit out now that has the spring and the follower that eliminates the need for the spacer in the magazines. So you can go with that kit, and then you don't need the spacers anymore in the magazines for it to work properly. And then as far as short or long barrel, it really depends on your end use. If you're looking at it for a carry pistol, the shorter barrel works really well. If you're looking at it for kind of an all-around firearm, I would go with a 5-inch. Personally, I'm a big guy. I like the 5-inch gun. I like the longer sight radius on it. If I'm using iron sights, if you're using a dot, it really doesn't matter. You give up a little bit of velocity with the shorter barrel versus the longer barrel. But then you get there's a lot that you can kind of weigh out with those different recoil spring system, recoil spring weights. You normally have to run a heavier spring with a shorter slide for reliability. The longer slide, you can run a lighter recoil spring and still get the same reliability and soften the recoil impulse. So, there's kind of give and take with both of them. It really kind of depends on what your end use is going to be. But I tell you, I think for a base starter 2011 platform to work on and do some stuff too, and have a great shooting firearm, the Prodigies are hard to beat. Jeff says recommendation on M1 carbine magazines. Triple K, TRIPLE, and then the letter K. They make really good aftermarket magazines. That would be probably the first place that I would look. And then you've also got, there's still a lot of military surplus M1 carbine magazines that are out there that are new old stock. You can shop around and find a bunch of those online as well. Hunting and Stuff with J&J said, hello, Robbie. Hey, guys. How you doing? Gerald Montanona says, I'll stick with gas-operated ARs too. Great insight. Dwayne Booth says, you keep getting muted. Robbie, your audio is going in and out. Guys, for some reason, I lost my connection there for a few minutes. And I got a little pop-up down here in the bottom that said my connection was lost and it was restoring. Everything should be good now. It looks like it's
a thumbs up.
Yeah, it looks like everything's popped back in here and is working like it's supposed to now. So hopefully we're back up and running. I see what the issue is. I don't have everything hardwired. It's Bluetooth or Wi-Fi tonight. So
stand by.
All right. All right, so we're gonna hardwire this thing so we don't drop in and out on you guys, and get that squared away. So we'll have that fixed shortly. There's always little things that you miss when you're setting these lives up. But let's see. Carry guns. I've had a lot of phone calls lately about different types of carry pistols, and it's back here. Yeah. So I've had a lot of phone calls lately about carry pistols, and as guys asking me, what's a good carry gun? What should I get? What's the best carry gun for the money? Yep, it dropped out again. Let's see if it reconnects. Yep. All right, we should be reconnected and good now. So back to carry guns. Yep.
Give a thumbs up if they can hear us now.
Yeah, give a thumbs up if all the audio sounds good. We should be back online now. But with the carry guns, there's a lot of options out there today as far as different carry guns. And, the big thing I think with a carry gun is not necessarily what looks cool in the cabinet or what looks cool in a magazine or online. The big thing with a carry gun is what fits you, what fits your hand, what trigger length fits you. Is how does the grip feel to you? Is the grip too aggressive? Is the grip not aggressive enough? Those are some things that I always like to look at with a carry gun. Magazine capacity is important to me. Replacement or extra magazines are important to me. How many magazines does the pistol come with, and can I get extra magazines for that pistol? So those are important things to me. What type of sights does the pistol have on it? Does it have night sights? Is it set up for a red dot? Does it have fiber optics? 3-dot, white 3 dots, or is it just a plain black set of sights? What type of sights does it have? How heavy is the recoil spring in the pistol? A lot of people don't think about that, but the recoil spring weight in a handgun dramatically impacts the recoil impulse that you feel with that pistol. And a really great example of that would be shooting a Springfield Hellcat versus shooting the Smith & Wesson EZ9. The Hellcat has a really heavy recoil spring in it and is very, very snappy when you're shooting it, versus the Smith & Wesson EZ9, which has a recoil spring that's light enough that you can rack it with 2 fingers. Super easy to rack the slide on that one. The EZ9 is probably half the recoil or more less than what the Hellcat is, and it's just because of the recoil spring that's set up in the pistol. So that's one of the big considerations when you're looking at a carry pistol is the recoil spring weight and how difficult is it to rack the slide. If you're getting older, you've lost some of your hand strength, maybe a little bit of arthritis. If you're a woman, you have smaller hands. Getting a firearm that fits you and fits you well is more important than how pretty that gun is. The pink ones and blue ones that are in the gun cases that are, you're like, oh, they're so pretty. If they don't fit you, you're not going to shoot it. And if you're not going to shoot it, you're not going to be proficient with it, and you're generally not going to carry it. It's going to stay at home in the gun safe, and you're not going to have it on you. A firearm that's not on you does you no good if you need it. So finding a firearm that fits you and one that works well for you is more important than really anything else out there when it comes to selecting a firearm. I always recommend to people when you're looking at a new firearm, always try and go to an indoor range that has rental guns, so you can basically try it before you buy it. Pick out a firearm that you like, take it out there and run a couple of magazines through it, see what you think about it. Always do that before you, if possible, before you buy a firearm. I hear one of the biggest lies that I've heard told over the years in gun shops are, these gun store commandos recommending Smith & Wesson revolvers, like your J-frame revolvers for a woman for a carry gun. And nothing wrong with a J-frame. I love my Smith & Wesson J-frames. They are great, great firearms. The problem with most of your Smith & Wesson J-frames is they have an extremely heavy double action trigger pull. You're 12 pounds on the light side, and more or less you're probably like 14, 15, 16 pounds on the double action. And that trigger pull is so heavy that a lot of people cannot pull that trigger and shoot that firearm accurately. They end up thumb cocking it and shooting it single action to be able to shoot it accurately. Well, you're not going to be thumb cocking a J-frame in a defensive situation. You're probably not going to have time for that. So, that's one of the big stories that I've heard people tell over the years. Oh, get your wife a J-frame. She'll love it. She will until she shoots it, and then she'll probably put it up and never shoot it again. So find something that fits you. Find something that has a trigger pull weight that you like. Something that has a slide that's light enough and a recoil system that's light enough that you can rack the slide. A grip that's big enough to fit comfortably in your hand, but not so big that you can't get your hand around it or reach the trigger, or so small that your fingers are hanging off the bottom of the gun. Those are great firearms, like the SIG P365. Awesome little pistol. Great shooter, and it's probably one of my favorite carry guns. But it's not a firearm that I recommend to new shooters because the grip is so small on it. For someone that's very experienced and has a lot of time behind the trigger, the 365 is a great platform. For a new shooter, I would recommend something with a larger grip that fits their hand better and is going to give them more control over that firearm. So pick the right pistol when you're going out and shopping for one. Get something that fits you and not necessarily what the gun store commandos behind the counter are recommending. A lot of times they're just trying to sell you the most expensive gun or whatever. They've got a big sale or they got a big shipment of something in. They're trying to push out excess inventory. Find what fits you, and that's what you need to buy. Scotty Allen says, what do you think about 380 versus 9x18 in a PPK platform? Me personally, I'll probably lean toward 380 over 9x18 just because 380 ammo is a little more available. And, there's not a huge difference between the 9x18 Makarov round and the 380. And in a pinch, I have shot those interchangeably with one another. Not recommended, but you can do it. But I normally lean toward the 380 just because it is more readily available in the United States over the 9x18 Makarov caliber. You guys are quiet tonight. I'm doing all the talking. Anybody have any questions about any specific thing? Anything from the live earlier today that I did on Sensible Prepper? That was a really, really good show. We were talking about, economic downturn in the country and how to not just survive, but how to thrive during an economic downturn. We're talking about some different examples, from back in the 1930s, like with Babe Ruth. He became a millionaire during the Depression, and he was in sports and entertainment. There were people in the real estate industry that became very wealthy, buying real estate when it was very affordable, and then selling that real estate when the market turned, and they made a lot of money. The Kennedys, they made a lot of money in stocks and bootleg liquor, but they kind of dipped on both sides of the fence, a little bit on the legal side and a little bit on the black market side. But they made a lot of money during the Depression. Another thing we were talking about today was, is your job that you have currently recession proof? And if it's not, have you ever considered looking at a different job or a different career path and moving into something that is more recession proof? We were talking about the medical industry and how the medical industry is probably one of the most recession proof industries that there are. There's two things that there's three things that we all have to do. We have to be born, requires medical. We have to pay taxes, that requires the government, and then we have to die, and that requires a mortician. Those are three things that are not going away. They're always going to be here, and those are three things we're always going to have. So look at your job. Is your job recession proof? And then one of the other things we were talking about was a side gig. What can you do on the side to make more money, bring more money in, and maybe end up turning a side gig into your profession? And we offered some examples with that as well. So that's one of the things that I've always had some type of side gig that I've done, and really I've turned my side gig into my profession with gunsmithing and manufacturing, and it's been a wonderful journey, being able to take something that I was so passionate about and really love doing, and turning that into a full-time job. I always say, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. You get up and do something that you enjoy every day. How many guys out there that love to fish or love to hunt, they're like, man, I would love to be a professional fisherman, or I would love to be one of these pro hunters that you see on TV, pro race car driver. It's the first step is taking the first step to doing it. Don't think that the field is full and there's not room for you. There's always room for you to get into something that you really enjoy, especially if you're passionate about it and willing to put in the work to make it a success. Steve says, Robbie, what do you think about the Smith & Wesson Response PCC? I'm going to go with no response on that for right now. The jury's still out on that one. There's some questions that I have about it, some concerns that I have about it, and until I see some of those things addressed, I'm gonna withhold a response on that, other than to say I wouldn't go and buy one right now. So that's just me, though. A lot of people may already have them and are enjoying them, and I think that the potential is there for it to be a really good platform. I just see some potential issues with it, and would hold off on and wait for version 2 on that one. God and Guns says, I just bought a brand new 1911 Metro Arms American Classic Commander. What's your opinion? The Metro Arms pistols, from what I've seen over the years, have been really good 1911s. The fit and finish is really good on them. The barrels have been fitted really well. Extractor tension and everything is set like they're supposed to be. Like most of your 1911s that are out there, I think it can use a better trigger system, better hammer sear disconnector, and then adjustable trigger and trigger bar. But everything that I've seen with those guns, they've been really good 1911s. And Chris Matthews says, Robbie, is there anything new in the firearms industry coming in 2024 that you're looking forward to? Yes, there's some new suppressors coming out at SHOT Show that I cannot wait to get my hands on. Rugged Suppressors has a new one coming out that I can't wait to get to play with and get my hands on that one. That's probably one of the biggest things for me is some of the new suppressor stuff that's coming out there. The guys over at oh, now I'm totally going to draw a mind blank on the name of their company. I'll have to come back to that one in a minute. Handguns, I think there's some new handguns coming out at SHOT Show that I'm curious about. But suppressors right now, suppressors are the big thing that I'm waiting to see come out at SHOT. There's some stuff coming out that could really be game changing in the suppressor industry. There's some stuff coming out from some smaller suppressor companies that could really put some of your large suppressor companies on notice as far as their sound signature, their decibel reduction, and the weight of the suppressors. And Gerald Montanona says, with this economic downturn, there are a lot of people I know that are relearning cheap food recipes from the Great Depression era for today's troubling times. That's absolutely right. Absolutely right. You know, I was watching a video the other night, and this guy was giving a bunch of different recipes with Spam, and I haven't seen people cook or use Spam, you know, especially in, you know, their everyday lives in a long time. You know, that was one of the things when I was a kid growing up. You know, we ate a lot of Spam, and I haven't seen that in a long time with people starting to give recipes for that, how to cook it, how to prepare it. And so, yeah, I agree with you 100%. That is something that we're starting to see a lot more of. And Gerald Montanona says, speaking of how to make food for cheap, believe it or not, there are ex-convicts on TikTok showing how they made certain foods in prison in their cells. Innovative. Yeah, and they're probably making really good money doing it. And Scotty Allen says, I just want the government to leave me alone. Oh, right. I think that's something that all of us could agree with there. Off-Grid Victory says, is it better to buy a Palmetto dagger and I'm guessing that set it up, or just buy a Glock 19? Off-Grid Victory, my recommendation would be go with the PSA dagger. And the reason that I say that is you're starting with a $300 to $400 pistol, so you've already got $200 extra in your pocket that you didn't have to spend for that stock Glock. The dagger comes with better sights. It's already milled most of them are already milled for a red dot. Most people don't like the triggers in the dagger, so that's one thing most people want to upgrade. You know, if you didn't want to do anything else to a dagger other than do a trigger swap, really a lot of the other bones are there. You've got a good barrel in the pistol. It's got a stainless steel one-piece guide rod in it, a good frame, a good slide. Their slides are top-notch, guys. If you haven't played with a PSA dagger, their slides are outstanding. Like I said, great sights, the internals on the gun, extractors. I've heard some issues with guys having issues with the extractors and replacing the extractor with a Glock extractor, but you know that's a $20 part. But you could buy the dagger, upgrade the trigger system in it, put a different extractor in it, buy you some extra magazines, and still have money left over compared to what you would spend for a bone stock Glock with plastic sights right out of the box. So PSA dagger 100% all the way. That would be the one that I would recommend.
And we have a video on this channel about that.
Yep, and if you go back in our videos in our channel, there's several videos on upgrading the PSA dagger. And then on our Patreon channel, because YouTube poo-pooed on my video and said I couldn't put it up on their channel, and I had to move it over to Patreon, we have a video on upgrading, and it's called PSA Dagger Trigger Fix. So there's some of the aftermarket triggers that you can buy that won't work in the dagger, and we've got a video that shows you how to fix any of the aftermarket triggers that are out there that will, to make them where they'll function and work properly in the daggers. But that's over on our Patreon channel. And that video is a free video on our Patreon channel, so you don't have to be a member or subscriber support the channel to be able to watch that video. As well as our Glock videos that we have over there on how to install a lot of the parts. All of those videos are free videos that we have on our Patreon channel. So check those out. Let's see. And then Steve says polymer. Glocks are polymer. Scotty Allen, I like my dagger grips better than the G19. Yep, I agree 100%. With the trigger guard is undercut on the dagger, which gives a relief for your finger so you don't get what's called the Glock knuckle. If you've never shot a Glock a lot, I'll tell you what happens. On your middle finger knuckle, it rubs on the bottom of the trigger guard, and if you shoot a Glock a whole lot, you'll end up with a callus on the inside edge of your middle finger where it rubs on the trigger guard. So a lot of guys go in and grind that out and relieve that for the to give your finger more room and to where the pistol will work better and won't drag on your finger. It also allows your hand to sit higher in the gun, which helps with recoil control and muzzle flip. The PSA dagger frames have addressed all of that, and so there's all of that work that you have to do on the Glock frame to be able to make it fit you is already done on the PSA daggers. Gerald Montanona says, I'm from Guam. We eat spam, LOL. Hey, I'm from the United States and we eat it too. It's good stuff. Chase Kelly says, hey Robbie, what are the top 45 PCCs you have experience with? Top 45 probably would be, most of the stuff that I've messed with in 45 caliber has been the AR platforms. I don't really have a ton of experience with other stuff. I've played with the Chris Vectors quite a bit in 45 ACP. I'm not a huge Chris Vector fan. The recoil impulse is unique, and it takes some getting used to. I think it's an awesome platform, and can be a really cool gun, but it's so different and unique. It takes some getting used to, that recoil impulse. But the Vector is an expensive rifle. A lot of like I said, I'm a big fan of a lot of the blowback stuff that's out there in 45 ACP, mostly in the AR platforms. It works, and it works really well. You have one that you had a specific question about? If you do, pop it in. We'll see if we can get to it before we close out right quick. God and Gun says, thank you to you and your family for being so awesome. Hey bud, I appreciate you tuning in tonight. We'll talk soon, okay? And then God and Gun said again, Glock is like generic toilet paper. It does the job, but I just want something better. It's not John Wayne toilet paper, It's not rough, tough, and don't take crap off anybody, AZ says, hi Robbie, is that a OIF cap? Is on your Amazon page.
I don't know. Where did we get that? What is OIF?
It's Operation Enduring Freedom.
Oh.
I don't remember. I don't remember.
I don't think so. We'll have to check on that.
Yep, I'll have to look into that, and I'll get back to you on that one. All right, guys, it's almost 7 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and start winding down for the night. And just want to say thank you for everyone that tuned in for the episode. This will be put up on our podcast later for those of you that weren't able to catch it live tonight. And it will also be reposted in our videos section, so you can go back and watch it again later if you weren't able to catch it. For upcoming videos, stuff that we can't put on YouTube, make sure you check out our Patreon page and become a member today and help support our channel and everything that we do. Guys, for those of you that are coming in at the end and missed the show earlier, have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you next